Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start our Educa DPS podcast for today. Our guest is the Honorable Paul Lopez, who is the clerk and recorder for the City and County of Denver. He is here to talk about the importance of exercising your right to vote and for our students on how to get more involved in the process of voting. Before we start, I want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, VS America, suppliers of agile furniture for our schools. Together, we are creating future-ready learning environments where comfort, choice, and engagement drive every student's success. Are you ready for takeoff? In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Educa DPS podcast. My name is Javier Ibarra, and joining us today is a man who describes himself as the protector of democracy for the Mile High City. He is a West Denver native, so am I, a former councilman, that's when I met him, and our current clerk and recorder, our very own Paul Lopez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, it's great to have you in the studio. I was just listening to your Spanish podcast, the previous version of this, and I just thought, wow, how do I follow that up? So I'm going to do my best. You're a natural.
I mean, you know, the Mexicanos from here, we struggle a little bit with Spanish, but hey, you know.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's part of who we are.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of our elections and protecting the vote, can you share a little bit about your journey? And I'm really interested in this because, you know, you're from West Denver.
Yeah.
I'm from West Denver.
The West Siders.
You went to the Rary campus. I went to the Rary
Yes, sir.
campus.
Yes, sir.
You know, and so we grew up here. I want to know from the moment you started school to how you got to be clerk and recorder. Give me that synopsis. Yeah, we have time. We have time.
Yeah. All right. Well, Javier, I appreciate you. And, you know, from one West Sider to another. My story is not unique, and neither is yours. And I don't say that as an insult. I say that as something powerful because there are a lot of us.
Absolutely.
You know, born and raised in the West Side. You know, my dad's Mexicano. He's from Veracruz, from Jalapa, Veracruz. And my mother's born in Albuquerque, but raised here in Denver. One side of the family, they say that whole thing, I've been here 7 generations, you know, before, you know, borders crossed us and all the other stuff.
Sure.
And then the other side is my dad, is Mexicano.
Yeah. Very old school.
You know,
Very culture.
I consider myself Mexicano.
Mm-hmm.
You can call me Chicano, that's fine. You can call me Latino, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't call me Hispanic, but you call me Mexicano.
Yes.
And for the longest time growing up, you call me Mexicano, and it was like a shameful thing. And that was the experience for a lot of us, especially here in the U.S. And that's the experience that a lot of us have, you know, dichotomy, right? There was always something in front of the word Mexicano. You're Mexican.
An adjective.
You're a lazy Mexican.
Yes.
You're a stupid Mexican. You're, you know, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Being Mexicano, we're hard workers. We're prideful. We're dignified. You know, the history, even of the word, is strong, and that lives within all of us. So, you know, I'm proud to be Mexicano. Born in the West Side. I went to school in all DPS schools almost. I mean, my dad was a janitor. My mom was a DPS teacher. She taught at Westwood Elementary back in the day, and Castro became Castro. And I'm glad this is a DPS Educa podcast because I want to talk about DPS and that history there and why we're not the only ones. And it's a good thing where we're not unique. You know, I grew up in Westwood. I moved around a lot because every time the company my dad worked for got bought out, you know, got changed. You had to clean a different building. They would bring in a cheaper company. We'd have to move. I think I moved like 27 times in my whole life.
Oh, my goodness.
I went to 4 different elementary schools, including, you know, Newland and Knapp. I went to 2 middle schools, started at Kepner, ended up at Hamilton, had to get bused out there, you know. So, you know, that was tough. I mean, my second grade year, and the one year I went to school in Arvada because we were living in an apartment in Arvada, I got humiliated for speaking Spanish. I tried to correct my teacher when she was talking about a rabbit in the Southwest named Conjo. And I said, no, miss, I think his name is Conejo. And she called me a clown in front of the whole class.
Wow.
For speaking Spanish. And only clowns speak Spanish, and you're not a clown, are you, Mr. Lopez? I said, no. I didn't speak Spanish until I was working in a restaurant over on First and Sheridan, Looking Good restaurant. I lied so I could work. Don't do this. It's illegal. 14 years old, I was working in a restaurant, bussing tables over at Looking Good restaurant. I did everything in the restaurant all the way into college. I put myself through, kept me off of the streets, kept me out of trouble. Ended up, graduating from West High School in 1997. Go Cowboys! Played varsity baseball. I loved it. My mother had gone there, so I felt, a little bit of pride doing that.
Absolutely.
I went to UCD. I was in the pre-collegiate program.
Mm-hmm.
Went to UCD. Didn't know what to major in until my last year of college. I was in MECHA, the Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Eslan, UMAS, MECHA.
Mm-hmm.
It really connected me
To your roots.
to my roots and to who I was. But the most important thing was that as a young Mexican man in school, I shouldn't be the only young Mexican person in school at that campus. And our whole thing was to recruit and retain, our community in college, right? And so I fell in love with community organizing, was doing stuff. I mean, that happened when I was 13 years old. I was knocking on doors, registering people to vote at 13 to name the school officially that was being built Castro Elementary. After Richard T. Castro, who fought for bilingual education, who fought against English-only initiatives. My mother was a bilingual teacher. They, wanted to do sink or swim, English immersion, English only in her class.
I went through that.
Yeah.
I went through that here at
See, there you go. They forced it on her to teach English only. She's a bilingual teacher, bilingual class. And my mom said, no, I'm not going to do I'm not going to do that to these students.
Right.
They're going to fail.
Right.
Why not just teach them in both languages as we should?
Right.
And she got suspended or dismissed. The district went hard on her. Padres Unidos was organizing at the time. Movimiento Poder.
I know them well. Yeah.
Ricardo Martinez was in my front room and started talking about community organizing, and I fell in love with that.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, they used to tease me that was the first joven. But
very cool.
Jóvenes sin Padres Unidos.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was in college and just fell in love with organizing. Did a lot of community organizing. I ended up being a union organizer, working in SEI Local 105. I put myself through school, graduated in 5.5 years with a degree in political science. And one day in 2007, I was driving down the street in Federal, and I noticed how different it looked from the rest of the city.
Absolutely.
On one side of the city had coffee shops, and our side you had pawn shops. One side of the city you had liquor stores, which was our neighborhood. On the other side of the city, you had grocery stores. Something's wrong when there's that kind of disparity in our community. And I never really understood discrimination until that right then and there. In our built environment, parks are in disarray. Every house is graffitied on. Streets are in disrepair. Potholes, trash. I was like, what the hell's going on?
I was just driving through that neighborhood the other day, and I thought, these streets are terrible.
Wait, in the west side? What do you mean, dude? I ended up paving those when I was a councilman. Jeez.
Well,
just kidding. Yeah, no. So part of that is, the disparity. No, I know. The streets are crazy in Denver because all it takes is one snowstorm to ruin everything. But there was a disparity in our community, so that's why I ran for city council.
I remember that.
I was 28 years old when I ran. Young people, I was 28. I have no business doing that at 28. I won.
Yes.
And I represented it proudly, my home district for 3 terms on the city council. And, I ran for clerk and recorder because I realized it's much more than just, you can be an amazing council person, an amazing advocate, but change doesn't really happen in politics until they realize that the West Side turns out to the ballot box.
Absolutely.
When people vote, people pay attention.
Yes.
And it just so happens that in a lot of our communities, we have low voter participation. And so low voter participation means less attention from the city. You can have amazing advocates like you have right now on city council or, in the past. But you bolster that fight, you bolster that position if the majority of people in your district were voting.
Mm-hmm.
In a district at the time of about 57,000 people, only 5,000 would participate in the election. Think about that.
That's so low.
That's low. So no wonders our district was the way it was.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why I ran for city council or for Clerk and Recorder, because at the end of the day, it's about, are you coming to the ballot box? And is it easy to vote?
Right.
And what are we doing to make sure that people can vote?
Absolutely.
And remove all the barriers so that people can vote, other than, what's required by state law.
Absolutely. And just for our audience here, we're not going to get into any political, we're not going to get into the State of the Union and what's going on. But what we are going to talk about is how do we reduce friction in order for you to vote, right? I look at it, it's the same thing. I used to do marketing and sales. That's kind of the route that I went. And the least amount of friction you have for someone to buy it, the more likely they are to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is what voting is about. This is what the work that you're doing here and that you're going to talk to us about.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing your story, because it's very similar to my story, like you said, right? I have trouble saying that it's not unique, but I feel like I really resonate with the story, right? Because the neighborhoods and the schools that you mentioned, I've been there, right? And obviously I've been there now as an employee of DPS, but I grew up on the West Side. I went to Barnum, I went to Richel, and then I went to West.
Yeah.
This Denver's my home. And so I've known you. We met when you were a city councilman, and I was working for Padres y Jóvenes Unidos. I was 15 and I was canvassing.
Yeah.
I was canvassing. I was going door to door and letting folks know about, these are the initiatives. This is how we'd like you to support it, that sort of thing. And do you have any questions? And then registering people to vote, man. I was out there. I was in the north side. Now it's the Highlands, but I was out in the north side in Honduras, and people, you mixed feelings, they liked it. So
yeah.
But for our audience, I want to give you all a little bit of the topic today. So we're going to explore how our local elections work and why student voices matter right here in Denver. And so in this episode, we're going to have the Honorable Clerk Paul D. Lopez, who's going to share with us how young voters can register, participate, and shape their community's future through civic engagement. So let's start off with the very first question. What are the requirements and who is eligible to vote? Let's just start off real basic.
Yeah. Well, people that can vote in these elections are United States citizens 18 and up. And that's state law, and it's also, federal law, right? That doesn't mean that if you are not 18 and you're not a citizen that you don't matter or you do not have a place in this democracy, because you absolutely do. There are a lot of students that are not 18 years old that still matter. And, when they take to the streets and fight for, equality and, things that, that matter to us in this country, it's huge. The impact is huge. It's always going to be huge. In history, all the change from voting rights to equal rights, throughout our history has been, led by young people.
Absolutely.
Right. So don't think that you don't matter. Number one. Two, of that population, of our young population, in the last election, only 17% actually voted. 17% of the eligible voters 18 through 24 participated, turned in the ballot.
And that's low.
And that is terribly low.
So if you're saying this, if you're a young person in the city of Denver, and you don't like the way things are going, you had an opportunity.
You have an opportunity.
And here's how you do it.
And your voting is one opportunity.
Yes.
And it's the easiest.
Yes.
I'm not asking you to, go and create a new organization, go door to door, which you can do. I'm not asking you to run for office, which you can do. in some offices, you don't have to be 25 years old. I'm not asking you to go enlist and defend the democracy over the ocean, like my grandfather did in the 40s in World War II.
Yes.
I'm not asking you to face police batons in the streets like John Lewis did, right? Just to vote. All I'm asking is that you turn in your ballot. It's the easiest thing.
Yeah. For all those people who did that stuff, so that you could just do it simply.
100%.
Yeah.
Voting is the easiest way to do it. And you know what? I know what people are going to say. it's rigged. It is not rigged. I'm the guy that's in charge of making sure it's not rigged. We've never had, any kind of issue like that. One, their ballot is counted. It matters. You matter, because in some races are decided fewer than 400 votes. My own, when I first ran for this office, citywide.
Wow.
It was over 189,000 people that participated in the race.
So if another neighborhood would have voted, that would have mattered. That would have made a difference.
400 people.
Yeah.
The difference between, and I say that as a testament to that. Right. And some of these races, it's decided between, national races. You're talking about like Congressional District 8.
Sure.
In the North.
Yes.
That's a congressional seat. That matters right now. Right.
That's a voice.
It's decided less than 3,000 votes.
Wow.
So think about the direction of the country and how that matters. And when you sit out and say, you know what? It's all rigged. It's all the same. All these people are the same. They're all bought off and things like that. Yeah. You know what? I'm not discounting, the lack of, accountability that a candidate may have or an official may have.
Sure.
I'm criticizing the apathy, and I'm critical of the apathy that we have as a community. 37% of people in this country did not vote in the last presidential election. Think about what's happening in this country, in this world. And I'm not telling anybody how to vote. That's not my business.
Right.
My business is to make sure that you can vote.
If you want to.
If you want to, and do it easily, then we protect your right to vote. Right? Think about what's happening in the world right now. Think about the cost of living. Think about the cost of tuition. Right? Think about, hey, I want to get my own spot. When I was 17 years old, I left the house. I was 18. Right? I was young when I left the house.
What did an apartment cost back then?
$400 a month.
Yep. That's what I paid.
How much is it right now? $2,200?
Yep.
So think about that, right? Think about the cost of tuition. When I went to school, a whole year was $5,000.
Wow. So
these things don't just happen. They happen because young people don't participate. And that's why I'm appealing to our young people and our parents, who are involved in the DPS. Make sure you're registered to vote. And all you got to do is turn it in. 3 ways to vote in Denver. Dropbox, which we have 47 of them now, open 24 hours, 22 days before the election.
Okay.
You can go in person, which is cool.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're going to wait in line if you're going to go at the end, on the day off. Don't do that.
No.
There could be an emergency. All kinds of stuff could happen.
Yeah.
Stuff could happen. Don't wait. You can get called into work. You can get sick. There could be a weird blizzard in freaking June, right? Or a tornado. Things like that happen.
Yes.
Right? Or you can mail it in. But if you take it to a Dropbox, you don't even have to put stamps on it. You just vote, take it to a Dropbox, done.
Yeah.
If our young people did that, this city would look different.
It'd look different.
It would be different.
Yes.
And so would the state and the rest of this country.
That's what they're doing in New York.
Yes.
Absolutely. Paul, I have a question for you, and I want to represent the students in our district right now. I know what a city clerk and recorder is, but for our students who don't, what do you do?
So one, my primary role is the most visible role is I oversee all the elections in Denver for the county on behalf of the people. I'm independently elected by the people. I work for the people. I don't work for city council. I don't work for the mayor, the governor, secretary of state, none of that. I am independently elected to make sure that our elections are independent, that they're not influenced by any other. It's others. I oversee elections, time, place, and manner. I oversee marriage licensing. So if you want to get married and you need to get a marriage license, I would say wait, young ones, don't marry the first person you see. I oversee the land transactions for the city and county. So when somebody does a refinance on their home, borrows against their home, buys a home, stuff like that, we hold all the paperwork and title, stuff like that. So we record those land transactions.
Sure.
I oversee foreclosures. So when people, unfortunately, if they're losing their home, that foreclosure process is a process. I don't pick a side. I can't pick a side. My job is to be the neutral party, make sure that the rules are all the same, and that the process is fair.
Yeah, but
Right?
in a way, you're doing a huge part right there. Just simply saying that, just by simply saying you're doing what's right,
Yeah.
you're doing what's correct, you're
Yeah.
following the letter of the law,
Yep.
and you're making sure everyone gets a just.
Yes, it's public. It's
Yes.
publicly oversought, and we oversee it. Right? In other states, it's a private entity, like a credit report or something
Oh,
like that.
no.
Right?
Another great reason to live here.
It's publicly overseen, and that's the public trustee's role, and that's who I am as well too. The other thing is, anytime the city council passes an ordinance or makes a law, it goes through the process. Mayor signs it. We hold on to that and we make it public.
Okay.
All of our laws, the Denver Charter, which is the city constitution. Anytime there's a law that's passed or a contract that's signed, a public contract, I sign it and I put the city seal on it, and we hold on to it and make it public for your review. So
Do you have a nice pen that you sign things with?
I do, but I hardly use that pen. It was
Yeah.
given to me by somebody who
Very special.
is a very special,
Yeah.
a good friend of mine who's no longer with us. And that feathered pen, ink pen, sits on my desk.
Yeah.
My friend Miriam Peña, who about passed away, but she was a public servant. She was a community organizer, and thought it was funny that I have a feathered pen,
Okay.
because that's what she thought I did.
Yeah.
And so it sits on my desk, just as a mememory, right?
That's beautiful. It's a
But
beautiful story.
yes, and a great community organizer, good person. No, I use a felt pen, or sometimes it's digital.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah. But it's official.
I mean, I still write my signature nice,
Yeah.
I figure someone's going to read it, and there we go.
Absolutely. I know I read it. Every
See,
time I
there
see
you
it, I
go.
was like,
See,
I know
there
that
you
guy. Yeah. Paul, I want to go back to our
Yeah.
youth here.
Yes.
Our youngsters who are in high school right now listening to this, or their parents
Mm-hmm.
who are listening to this, and they're feeling the same. They want to get involved. They want to do this. I learned this recently, but can you tell me more? I heard that young people can do something called pre-register
Yes.
to vote, and then actually vote when they're 18.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Remember, to vote, you have to be 18, U.S. citizen, in Colorado to vote in elections. For those that are not, and that are U.S. citizens, at age 15, they can pre-register to vote. You can register to vote when you get your permit, right? And I know a lot of young people want to get their permit at 15.
Absolutely.
I did. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car until I was like 20 something, but still, I
fact
could
that
drive.
you had
The
it,
fact
yeah.
that I have my license, right?
Yeah.
Meant something. So, you can register to vote. As a matter of fact, you automatically register to vote when you get your license. However, pre-register you can do on your cell phone. denvervotes.org.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you got to do. denvervotes.org, and you could follow it, register to vote, and it takes you to the state site and you register to vote. It's easy. It's super easy, and I would encourage people, register to vote. And if you think you're already registered to vote, double check that information, because sometimes you, like me when I was young, I moved a whole bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that your registration is correct, so that when we send you your ballot in the mail, it gets to you.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know, and it's good to know for our young adults who want to get civically engaged with this. Going along that, how does your office, you yourself, work with schools and universities to help students better understand elections, civic engagement, and then local government in general?
Well, one, every high school has a deputy should have a deputy registrar.
Mm-hmm.
You have the high school deputy registrar program, which is a state program that we work with our office. We have outreach to over 30-something schools, and I say 30-something because it's growing, to develop somebody, to train somebody at your high school that's responsible for voter registration.
Mm-hmm.
Some high schools are doing it well. Sometimes some don't even respond.
Sure.
And I hope that this can, serve as a message to, if you're watching this, please make sure that your high school is doing this, because it's important.
Yes.
Young people's the students' vote is important. Also, people participating in elections is really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we do that. We have cafecitos. We have coffees that we do in the community, and we have a lot of just events and stuff that we do in the community to make sure that, we're present and people can vote or register to vote or find out more about the election in person, because not everybody is on the internet. Not everybody follows social media.
Sure.
It's a powerful tool, but it's also not the only tool, right?
That's important to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of things that are not correct on social media. So for any questions about the election, how to register to vote, when, who, where, hit up denvervotes.org. Okay. But as young people, we try to engage them as much as possible. East High School, I got to give a shout out because they got the Eliza Router Award. And that is for the highest number of voter registration. There were like 90-something% of their eligible students registered to vote. We give that award to the highest performing school that does it. They've won it twice already.
Okay.
And so I can't think of the other, they're going to get really upset that I forget the name. KIP has done it. The high school in Southwest Denver and also the one in in the Northeast as well too. So they've won that award. I want to see West do it.
Let's do it.
Shoot, I want to see the Cowboys do it. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We didn't win anything when we played baseball, right? We never got to a championship or nothing like that. We went to a playoff game. That was it.
Good times.
Good times. However, we can win this award.
Yes.
So let's do it, right? North, where are you at? Lincoln, TJ, come on, man.
Calling everybody
right?
out.
So we can get people registered to vote, and I'd love to do that. I would love to do that at my home high school or at Manual as well too.
Well, let's set it up, man. I'm sure we can do something with that.
Yeah.
So I want to know specifically what programs, you talked a little bit about this, but what programs and outreach does your office offer so that we can get students more engaged in the democratic process? One of them that I've seen is that big bus.
Yeah.
To vote. I've actually voted 2 times on that big bus, and then they give you your little sticker.
Yeah.
And then obviously I post that on Instagram so that people know.
Nice.
That's the whole.
Yeah. So we have 2 mobile vote centers that are basically buses that can go anywhere in the city.
Yes.
Need be, and set up a vote center. As a matter of fact, it's at the Emily Griffith campus the last 2 days of the election because per state law, we have to be able to have vote centers and drop boxes at colleges and universities. And Emily Griffith campus is technically a college.
That's right.
And so because it's very limited in space and access, we bring the bus and set up a vote center right there. And I tell you, it's really popular. However, what I'm going to tell people is don't wait until the last minute to vote in person.
Yes.
Okay? If you want to vote in person, great. It's still voting. There's going to be 16 vote centers that are going to be open for the primary on June 30th, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And you can go to any vote center to vote, including one of our buses, right? It serves as one too. However, we mail you the ballot.
Yes.
You have 22 days to turn it in, and you have 47 drop boxes now in Denver.
Right.
That you can just put it in anytime you want, so as long as it's before 7 p.m. on election day. You could even put it in another county's drop box. So if you're working, check this out. If you're working in Denver and you live in Lakewood or you live in Aurora, right? Or you're a student and you go to school in Boulder, right? But commute. You can fill in your Denver ballot and put it in Boulder's Dropbox. Or you can fill in your Aurora ballot and put it in Denver's Dropbox.
And then what happens?
Right? And so the clerk and all of us clerk and recorders, all the elections offices in Colorado, we coordinate. When we receive another county's ballot, we timestamp it to let people know exactly when it came in, right? And then the next day after the election, we do a ballot swap, ballot exchange. Aurora brings their Denver ballots. Everybody comes to Denver, and here's the Aurora ballots. Here's Jeffco's ballots. Here's the ballots we received from Weld County, and we do a ballot swap.
Oh, that's so cool.
You could put it in any drop box in the state, so as long as it's in Colorado.
So we have 47 in the city, but even more statewide.
And a lot of people depend on our ballot boxes in the city. We have the most in any region in the country right now. Of this region in the country right now.
That's awesome.
And remember, in some states, you don't have one ballot box, one drop box, because they don't believe in that. They don't believe in that.
Yeah.
We do. Why? Because one, they're secure.
Yes.
2, they're monitored 24/7.
Yes.
3, they're emptied out by teams of Republicans and Democrats working together. We get the ballots twice a day, and bring them. And every step, anytime anybody touches a ballot in our office, it's a Democrat or a Republican or an affiliated Republican. It's never just two of the same party.
So there's
bipartisan.
There's like fail safe.
Yep.
Tactical redundancy.
We from every step of the way, things are sealed and secured and locked, signed, and it's only the teams that call them ballot security teams. They're the ones that take those ballots.
I was listening to the Spanish portion of the show, and you mentioned how if you have, let's say you drop off your ballot a couple weeks before, and then you go vote for whatever reason, you wanted to get the sticker or whatever, right? What happens then? Did you vote technically twice?
You cannot vote twice.
You heard it here.
Okay. And don't attempt to vote twice. That is vote fraud. And the DA, you get forwarded to the DA and they prosecute. Okay.
Very serious.
We take that very seriously. People trying to vote for other people or people trying to vote twice. Now, sometimes people vote each other's ballots on accident because the ballots go to the household and the grandpa and grandma, some of the mom and dad, sometimes they sign it. Or they say, you know what? Why are we sending two? Let's just put them in the same envelope, right?
Oh my goodness.
We get that.
Save us.
But we still forward that to the DA to determine intent. Right. So don't even try to vote twice. It doesn't work. You can have your mail-in ballot and turn that in. Okay. If you get your mail-in ballot, say, you know what? I'd rather vote in person. Then take the ballot to the vote center, turn it in, or destroy it and go to the vote center. But don't try to vote twice, okay?
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing. You can't.
And so that leads me to my next question around technology, right? So you have obviously a lot of technology. Tell me about how we use technology.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We can tell when you try to vote twice. Because the system, the voter rolls, right? The register of all voters is a statewide system. It doesn't exist physically. It's a statewide system. And if you try to vote in Douglas County and try to vote in Denver County, we know because we scan your signature, verify your signature, verify it's you. You've already provided your ID at the time of registration. That's why when people say, oh, voter ID, we already do that at the time of registration. Right? So we already know it's you. We know your signature because we got it from the license. We got it from, previous votes that you've turned in and stuff like that. We scan it, verify it's you, and then it shows up in the system as voted. So when another ballot comes in with your name and your signature, somebody else's, we're like, uh-oh.
Something's up.
That's why we know. And we know instantly.
Wow.
That's why we can say that it is 100% secure. And that's how you know voter confidence. When people say, oh, there's voter fraud. Oh, it's rigged. It's not rigged.
It's not a thing.
So try it, test us. Don't do it. Don't try it, test us. People that have tried to test us, they get prosecuted. That's what's happening in Grand Junction right now.
Oh my goodness. So with that, tell me about the technology, right? We're in the age of AI. We're in the age of all that good stuff. How do you make voting records, all of that easier?
Well, using technology, we have it's multiple things, right? We do what's called a logic and accuracy test. Every single vote is a paper ballot. Okay, we mail it to you, or if you go vote in person, you fill out a paper ballot. You can turn it in. Let's say your ballot's in this envelope. Only your name appears on the envelope, not your ballot. So when we receive it, we scan it. It goes through a high-speed scanner, and then it verifies your signature, cuts it, opens it. People look at it, Democrat and Republican working next to each other. They verify the signature. They both agree. They move forward. If not, it goes to another set of eyes, right? If it doesn't match, because sometimes people's signatures change.
Sure.
If it doesn't match, we contact the voter and we say, hey, can you provide your signature again? It won't count unless you provide your signature. We need to verify that this is you. That's called a ballot queue. You have 8 days after the election to be able to do that. Okay? We always give the benefit of the doubt to the voter. Sometimes a person Their signature may change because maybe they suffered a stroke or something else. So we give that benefit. Or, you stop putting a little heart over your eyes. And,
I feel like there's a story there that people.
I saw your signature, how you had with a little heart over the eye.
You just
I'm
called
just
me
kidding.
out. Just called me out.
So I think, we use technology in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, it's always a paper ballot. We test our equipment before and we do an audit after, just to make sure that everything's working as planned.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the technology we use, whether it's the statewide voter registration, everything else, it's very helpful. I would be careful with things that you see online.
Tell me more.
There's a lot of fake stuff out there, deep fakes, AI.
Yeah, it's so
It is
advanced.
You got to be mindful. If you have any question whatsoever about the election or your ballot or where to vote, how to vote, when to vote, just contact us, denvervotes.org. That's not AI. That comes to us. Or give us a call. The number's right there, 720-913-VOTE, right? Or hit 311. You call your clerk and recorder in any county, and we will help you. So if there's any question about, hey, is this real? Let us know.
Paul, this is all great information. Before you go, I just have a couple more questions here. So we talked about how, you have to be a citizen. You have to be of age, which is 18.
Yep.
But for those of us who are not that or are younger, how can we get more involved or learn more about this civic process? What would you recommend?
I'm glad you asked that question, because democracy isn't just about an election 2 or 3 times a year. Democracy is every day, and it's bigger than just voting. So folks who cannot vote yet still have a voice and still matter and can still affect change. You can campaign for a candidate. You can put a yard sign in your yard encouraging people to vote. You can get people in your family who are eligible to vote, or your friends, and get them to vote, because there's a lot of family members all the time say, oh, it's all rigged. Oh, they're paid off. All the candidates are the same, right? And sometimes it is one person in the whole family that can vote. And some of our families are big. I come from a small family, but sometimes you got 6 or 7 people in that household.
Right.
10. Some of them can't vote. That makes your vote just as powerful. Sure. Think about what's happening in the world. If you're okay with the chaos, if you're okay with what's happening, you're okay with high tuition, you're okay with people being denied due process, you're okay with what you're seeing across these. I'm not telling you how to vote, but people can talk about these issues and have different positions on the issues. That's great. Then do something. Vote. But what you cannot do is nothing. Don't just sit back and watch things happen. Be part of it. And as a young person, young people, and our families in DPS, be part of something. Be part of it. It doesn't take much. All you got to do is, we mail you your ballot. All you got to do is fill it out, take it to a Dropbox, boom, done. You ain't got to suit up, you ain't got to take to the streets. But for folks who cannot vote, you can. Put yard signs in your yard, campaign, encourage others, right? If something's not right, you see a protest in the street, go be part of something.
Right.
That matters. In our community, think about it this way. I saw a cartoon that Lalo Alcaraz drew up.
Yeah.
And it's this explorer in Mexico, and he comes across this Mayan temple. And it's this huge Mayan temple that says Latino vote.
Wow.
Latino. But it could be the youth vote.
Right.
But what he doesn't realize, under the ground is the rest of the temple, which is even bigger. And it says that eligible, unregistered Latino vote. It's an iceberg.
Right.
The power of young people is an iceberg.
Right.
The most of it is not being used.
But what happens if I'm not really feeling that candidate?
Look, if you don't feel the candidate, that's fine. The candidate should speak to you and talk about your issues and what matters to you. And you should ask that of the candidate. So that's another thing that you can do, is go to these debates. You don't got to be a citizen to go to a debate. You just got to be a human being. But what I don't want you to do is take out your ring and be like, come on, candidate, marry me.
Right.
I'm marrying you, candidate. It's not a proposal. Your vote is not a proposal. Don't treat it like that. Your vote is one chess piece or checkers, whatever you play, or Candy Crush. It's one move. They don't even play Candy Crush. That's old. It's one move towards a society that you want.
I heard once someone tell me that voting is like catching a public bus, and you have a destination and you don't wait for the perfect bus, the nicest bus, the bus that speaks to you. You catch the next bus
That is a great analogy, man.
that takes you as close to your destination as possible.
Yeah.
And you don't wait for the bus in 3 hours from now. You
Right.
just catch the next bus.
Yeah.
And that's as simple. And then the moment you're not with it, get off the bus,
And you know-
catch a new one.
And you know what? Some people don't like either candidate, and they look at their ballot and they're like, "Oh, but God, we'll go to the next line."
See,
Because sometimes, yeah, you may not be happy with the president, you may not be happy with the senators, governors, whatever. But you know what? City council matters. You know what? These judges matter, and they matter more than you think. Some of these questions that are going to be on the ballot, they matter.
Well, then there's initiatives on the ballot that affect Denver Public Schools.
There you go.
I think our bond initiative was one of the last things in the ballot during the presidential election.
There are a lot of issues that need you to opine on them. And like I said, my job isn't to tell you to vote Democrat or Republican for this person or that person. My job is to make sure that you can vote and you can exercise whatever you choose.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm gonna say. You matter, your vote matters, and it absolutely counts. 100%.
Powerful message.
Yep. To the young people, no cat, right? So cringe. No, it matters. And if young people participate, this world is going to look different. I guarantee that, for the better. Saying that, June 8th is when your ballots are going to be mailed to you and the boxes are going to open. Okay? Go to denvervotes.org, find the box nearest to you, that drop box. Fill out your ballot, take it, no postage necessary, take it to a drop box. Done. Don't wait till the tornado is going to happen like the day of or something like that, right? Just take it, get it over with, be done,
Yes.
right? It matters. The other thing, too, is that in the primary election, which is coming up on June 30th, I'll describe what's going to happen in November, too. You're going to get, if you're a Democrat, you're going to get a Democrat ballot. And you're going to choose who's going to be your Democratic nominees, the semifinals to the championship. Who's going to go to November as the Democratic candidate? Or if you're Republican, who's going to be the Republican candidate in November for governor or for Senate or for state, right? The Republicans will get theirs. Democrats will get theirs. If you're not affiliated, I'm not saying independent. Independent is actually a party, okay? There's only three types of people that are going to get ballots: Republicans, Democrats, because they're major parties, and the unaffiliated, the people that do not choose either or. You're going to get both Republican and Democratic ballots.
Wow.
You only send one back.
Right.
Don't fill them out both and send both of them back because it doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's the rules with these elections. Send one back. Destroy the other one. And remember, even if somebody tried to vote that other ballot that you got rid of,
You're going to know.
we're going to know.
You got it.
So, and if your dog ate your ballot, we can replace your ballot. We spill coffee on it like I do.
Yes.
If you accidentally tear your ballot, oh, shoot, I tore my ballot.
Right.
It's okay.
We'll print a new one.
You can print a new one or just tape it. Tape the envelope or whatever. Or, oh, shoot, I forgot to vote this person. You just make a note and say, I didn't mean to vote this person. I want this person. We still get it. Our election judges, what they call adjudicate, they look at it and then they determine the intent.
Sure.
And if it's a torn ballot like this, a Democrat and Republican election judge will duplicate your ballot so it can be scanned. Okay, so any questions whatsoever on the election, all you got to do is hit us up.
Yes.
denvervotes.org.
Well, Paul, I want to thank you for this information, man. This has been great. What an honor to have you here and have you fighting for the democracy of our local government. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of our Educa listeners for coming onto the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be back. DPS all the way. Go West High School.
Let's do it, man.
All right.
Well, friends and families, this concludes our Educa DPS podcast for today. I want to give a big thank you to our guest, Paul Lopez, for sharing this very important information. In the spirit of sharing, we ask you to share this content and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Denver Public Schools Plus, or you can also find us on all the major podcast platforms. Just search for the Denver Public Schools Podcast Network. Our gratitude goes out to the entire DPS communications team, and a big thank you to our superintendent, Dr. Alex Marrero, for his continued support of this podcast. And don't forget to tune in where the learning journey continues. And remember to tell your children more often, I believe in you and I know you can do it. I'm Javier Ibarra. Until next time.